In this town on Valentine's Day, everybody loses their heart.
It looks like Harry Warden's back in town.
In the town of Valentine Bluffs, there are many ways to die. Take your pick. My Bloody Valentine.
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, two friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Enrique Couto and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
Well, hello and a happy, lovely love day.
Yes, it is.
Valentine's Day is tomorrow,
Yes.
maybe.
Yeah, most likely. That's what we planned for.
It could be. We're all living in a time that is either pre-Valentine's Day or post-Valentine's Day.
This is very true.
So welcome to a very special love-themed episode of Do You Even Movie? I'm your host, Enrique Couto, here with my good buddy and co-host, Double D, David L. Denoyer.
Is the L for blocked on LinkedIn?
Ah, man! I've been holding back jokes like that about you.
Yeah, that's fair.
Dave once hurt a girl's feelings so much she blocked him on LinkedIn. All right, that's the TLDR for people who haven't seen the Stuck in Love episode.
Yeah.
But so tonight we are talking about the immortal classic
Yes.
in the realm of horror Valentine's Day movies, which there aren't a lot of.
Not a lot. We've seen them all, I think, at this point.
I mean, well, that's not saying much.
My
We've
Bloody
seen them all.
Valentine, technically Hospital Massacre, aka X-Ray.
Technically.
Yeah. I think that's it. But and the remake.
You would think Valentine's Day would be a more fertile ground, not just for horror movies, for movies in general, but with how much people love romances and stuff, there actually aren't a ton of Valentine's Day movies.
Not really. I mean, I know for a fact that, because we've talked about it, that you haven't seen Gary Marshall's Valentine's Day that came out in like the early aughts, I want to say.
I don't think so, no.
Fantastic movie. I really like it. It's a little cheesy because it's all the multiple stories interconnecting. I know.
Whoa.
Crazy,
a Valentine's Day movie. Hold on. Let's just
Watch out, guys. It's a hot take.
But for the record, your casting is like Ashton Kutcher, George Lopez, Gary Marshall's in it at one point. You also have Topher Grace and Anne Hathaway. I mean, the whole lineup.
Obviously, you had me at George Lopez.
And Tim.
Corey's.
Yes.
You got the two Taylors.
And they're in love in the movie, of course, too.
Well, I mean, why wouldn't they be? But so we're going to be diving deep into the minds.
Yes.
And we were talking a little bit about that before we started the show, because my people, my mother's side, they're all from Kentucky. And I know your people are actually, ironically, more of the Canadian side of the border,
yes.
Which is tragic, but I'll allow it. But my family had a long line of miners, of people who worked in the coal mines, and this is going to blow people's minds. But being a coal miner is actually a really unpleasant and dangerous job.
That it is.
And that's what led my mother's family to Ohio, was escaping the mines. They were like, no more of this. So much so that there's a phrase for people like my mother's family.
And that is?
They're called briar hoppers.
Oh, okay.
So, which is pejorative. As my sweet Aunt Betty used to always say, you never call a briar hopper unless you're a briar hopper. Betty used to say that all the time, but I didn't realize, I always thought that when I would hear people say briar hopper at family functions and stuff, I always thought that it was because of context, because nobody sat down and went, now little Rick, here's how that works, because they would call me Rick because that was not the Hispanic side.
Yeah.
But I always thought from context that it was a term for people from Kentucky, because I would always hear the people saying briar hopper. We're like my Aunt Betty from Hazard, Kentucky. My mama was born in Hazard, but she left at a very young age. Most of that family was from Hazard, Kentucky, which, what a name.
Yeah.
But it was because I don't remember the exact number, but they got tired of the amount of men in their family who died in the mines.
I could see that.
So Briarhopper, when I Googled it a couple months ago, it turns out, this is going to blow your mind. It literally means people from Kentucky who worked in the mines who came to southwestern Ohio for a different life.
Wow.
It literally is my family on my mother's side. Like not even like a little bit. That's literally what they were.
That's nuts.
The idea being that they jump over the briar patch in Kentucky and came into Ohio.
That's crazy.
So my family, literally, they're all a bunch of briar hoppers, and I can say that.
Yes, you can.
Probably. And you can send your hate mail. You know where to go. But so that being said, there were a lot of like stories of loved ones working in the mines, and actually my Aunt Betty's father was a coal deliverer. He would walk around with a coal cart, and you would order coal, and he'd come and bring it to your house.
That's crazy.
So there's a lot of mining in that, and then of course my contribution is I'm a big fan of Enemy Mine.
Yes, you are.
Which I really am.
Which I recommended on our Grumpy Old Men episode and will never be forgiven for, apparently.
That was the weirdest choice, but
it felt right.
It did it.
To me, it felt right.
Okay, fine. Well, before we jump in, I wanted to ask you, Dave.
Yes, sir.
Much to my fear after asking you a question about your personal life last time.
Yes.
Valentine's Day. How do you feel about Valentine's Day personally? Like, did you have like were you like the cock of the walk in high school or in middle school or on Valentine's Day, or were you the kid who like you didn't get a card except from the girl with the lazy eye?
I was a bit anti-Valentine's Day for a while.
You were an edgelord.
I was a bit anti-Valentine's Day for a while. It wasn't honestly.
Oh man,
it probably wasn't until my 20s that I really got more accepting of it, and
that's so pathetic.
Well, I was taught to love myself, basically, is what it was. Like the day
only
became
in the shower,
only in the shower, yeah,
only in the shower.
The day became what I made of it. So, and I think actually you may have been one of the people that kind of inspired me to do it, but like it became a day where I would just like after work I would usually just go get like a bottle of wine, some sushi, and go home and just watch movies.
What you mean is you were single.
I was single, yes, for the most part, yes.
Wait, and how did I inspire that? I really want to understand that.
It was probably one of those, Dave's bitching texts, and
I was probably like, this is how often in our friendship you'll just say something and be like, sounds like you're the problem. Just fucking do something nice.
Yeah, yeah.
I am that friend.
No, you are.
The irony of me making fun of you is that I was extremely anti-Valentine's Day until almost my 30s.
That makes sense.
So now that doesn't mean I didn't like stomp my heels about it and stuff.
Yeah.
But I would say, generally speaking, I haven't had a life that has lacked female companionship, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's not a brag. It's just like, hey, whatever. So I would generally be like, I'm supposed to love you every day.
Yeah.
So why am I going to love you more today?
More on today, yeah.
And then I learned that, and this has become an element of every part of my life.
Yeah.
That you should just freaking celebrate every opportunity you get.
Yeah.
Because if you don't celebrate things because you're too busy being cynical, or you're like, well, maybe this isn't worth celebrating, or maybe this isn't a big enough deal to celebrate, then one day you're going to wake up and realize you never celebrated at all.
No.
So, and I live that, and I still struggle with it. Like, my humidor is full of special occasion cigars.
Yes, it is.
And literally there will be days where it'll be like a Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. I'll be home alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll put on a movie and I'll be like, dinner was good. I'm going to have one of the fancy cigars because I have like 15 or 20 special occasion cigars.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I gotta, it's like that meme that was going around that was like, wear that fancy dress, drink that bottle of wine, because you may never
get a chance. Yeah.
And I do believe that. I really do believe that any excuse to celebrate is a good reason. But I also understand that, Valentine's Day is also kind of National Rub Singleness in Your Face Day.
Yeah, it absolutely can be. I mean, and that's kind of where I started just looking at it, where it was just like, okay, it's essentially just another day.
I feel like even when you had girlfriends, like back in that time period, you always managed to be single at Valentine's Day regardless. It seems like it just never...
I didn't have very long-lasting relationships at that point in my life.
Was it because winter made you have to be near each other? Like, huddling for warmth, they were like, oh,
I'm good.
Why me? Adios. No. But no.
I don't even know the answer.
No, because you want to break up before Christmas to save money on presents.
On gifts,
God. What are you new?
Oh, God.
I am the style guide of this program.
You just reminded me.
Oh, no.
So we'll do another bad Dave story.
Okay. But I have to, by law, play this.
Please. No, David.
So the year is probably 2012. I'm in college, and my girlfriend at the time, I've told you this story many a times, but
I'm sure you have.
I haven't told you this bit of the story.
The problem is when you say, like, I'm going to tell a sad story, I've told you before, I'm like, I'm sure you have, but go on, please.
My current girlfriend at the time had never seen Die Hard, and it was getting to be Christmas time, and I was, like, getting really excited to show her Die Hard, and she jokingly said, well, what's going to happen if I don't like it? And I jokingly said back, well, we'll probably break up. Not intending for that to happen, not intending for that to be what happened. So the day comes, we watch Die Hard, and at the end of it, she's like, "Yeah, that was fine." I didn't dislike it, but like it's fine. Like it's just another action movie, and like I was already having some issues with this person, unfortunately, and it just kind of got to a point in that night where it wasn't even Die Hard, but what happened was we did end up breaking up. But to make matters worse, and this is the part of the story I never told you, so
oh boy,
I had gone Christmas shopping, and the presents were in my closet.
First of all, you spit all over the entire studio. That's number one. But number two, were they Christmas shoes?
No, they were not Christmas shoes.
Okay, continue.
They're not Christmas shoes. If I remember correctly, one of them was a DVD of Hunger Games, and I think the other was like either a book or a video game. I can't remember. But anyway, in David's stupid moment, it was like, we're doing the crying, breaking up part, and I'm like, well, wait, just one more thing before you go. And I was just like, I want you to have these, so I gave breakup gifts.
Like you were just like. Remember, every contestant on David Denoyer's Relationships gets turtle wax.
And a copy of the Hunger Games.
Hunger Games.
Bought at his job at FYE at the time.
Oh, well, you're already winning dating a mall employee.
So, yeah, I unfortunately once in my life gave breakup gifts as I look at it now, because they were Christmas gifts, but we were breaking up, and I was just like, I want you to have these. And now that I look back on that, I'm like, that wasn't my brightest moment.
Hey, survey says on Dave giving parting gifts.
All right.
I mean, it could be worse.
It could be worse.
Still be dating.
Or STDs.
Well, I wasn't going to. Wow. Well. So.
I would just like to clarify real quick.
Please.
We are recording this at midnight.
We're recording after midnight.
The day that we are recording this, we have been to the movie theater. We just watched the movie that we're going to be discussing here shortly, and it is midnight as we record this right now. Well, so I am in good spirits.
I should have checked your coffee when you showed up and made sure it wasn't a little Irish.
Yeah, we'll find out.
But so tonight we have a film, and like we mentioned, it is a slasher.
Mm-hmm.
But more Canadian, so it's more like hey. Poutine. But it's My Bloody Valentine.
Yes, sir.
And this is a film that I will be honest, I've had to warm up to.
Okay.
It was not a top of the level favorite when I first saw it as a teenager. It was kind of like, what's weird? It's funny how you remember things that you'd paired together.
Yeah.
I think the first time I saw My Bloody Valentine, that same night I watched The Initiation, that movie in the mall.
Yeah.
And I just remembered when I was done watching Initiation, I was like, why didn't anybody talk about this movie? This is so much better
And then we watched Initiation about, what was it, like 6 years ago when I got that Blu-ray, and we're like, it's okay.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But so I will say that as I've revisited My Bloody Valentine almost exclusively because you want to revisit it.
Yeah.
Which nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Generally around Valentine's Day when you're single.
Yes. Which I'm not right now, but okay.
Well, if you want to cover all bases, just say, "Hey, honey." That way, no matter what, you're good. But no. My Bloody Valentine's definitely grown on me, and this last viewing that we just did, kind of made me appreciate it even more.
Yeah.
I think that it's a movie that's definitely not from a cynical place, which is interesting because it's straight up a Friday the 13th ripoff.
Oh, 100% is,
I mean, even Paramount wanted another Friday the 13th, and that's why they bought it and maybe financed it. But we're going to find out more about that as Dave brings us the important deets for My Bloody Valentine.
We are talking about My Bloody Valentine from 1981, 1 hour and 30 minutes, or 1 hour and 33 minutes, depending on which cut you watch, which we'll get to.
Ooh.
This film is rated R, and the director of this film is George Milhaka. Now, he was the director of Pickup Summer in 1980. He goes to do My Bloody Valentine in 81, so this is his second feature.
Oh, it was only his second?
Yeah.
So, well, and that makes sense, though, because there's a lot in it that I felt like was... what's the word? Like, it was very, what's the word? Like, it's spunky. It was very, like, he was going for broke.
Yeah, no, he absolutely
was. And it sounds like his first one, Pickup Summer, sounds like it was like a sex comedy.
Well, and that's
which were very popular in that era.
Interesting, because in 1982, he does Scandal, which is a rated X film, from what I could find about it.
Whoa. So when we say rated X, are you saying like a full-blown adult movie, or are you saying like it was a...
It looked to be like an adult movie.
Used to mean a lot.
Yeah, it looked to be like a sex comedy, but there was definitely there may have been adultness to it. So I couldn't find much information on it. But then in 85, he goes to do a movie called Eternal Evil. In 1988, he does a little film called Hostile Takeover.
Wait, you mean Office Party?
Or The Devastator?
The Devastator? And that was on Thanksgiving.
That was a Thanksgiving
movie.
Yes.
We watched that one year on our annual Thanksgiving movie marathon.
Yeah.
And fun film.
David Warner plays a guy that comes into his office and basically takes everybody hostage.
Yes.
And you really don't ever find out the reason, now that I think about it.
He just snapped. Yeah. He's just a crazy, lonely person. But that is quite a deep cut, lost flick. But what was the third title?
Hostile Takeover, The Devastator.
Devastator. That's what it was. Because Office Party was the other
Party,
one.
Yeah.
Devastator makes no sense.
Nope.
I think that was like a 90s retitle for VHS.
It had to have been.
Because Office Party makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Because there are people taken hostage in an office.
Yeah.
But that is crazy. That was the My Bloody Valentine director. What else has he done, David?
So in 89, he does an episode of The Hitchhiker. He does Crossbow the movie in 89 as well. Straight Line, the Mr. T film from 1990.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Then he goes to do The Psychic in 1991, Urban Angel 1991, Deceptions 2, Edge of Deception in 94, Bullet to Beijing in 95 with Michael Caine, The Hunger TV series in 98. Cruel and Unusual 2001, Race to Mars TV series in 2007, Sticks and Stones, The Firm TV series in The Transporter, its TV series in 2013, and also Lost Girl in 2011 as well. So he kind of got his taste in film and then moved over to TV.
Well, that makes sense though if you're a working director in Canada, because a lot of the TV series moved there, especially in early 2000s.
Yeah.
After the X-Files kind of established production in Vancouver, which there was already production in Toronto and all that. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
So interesting that he went into television.
Yeah, and I mean, a very interesting resume too. So moving down our list, we have the one of the writers, which is Stephen A. Miller. He did writing for In the Beginning in 1978 was his first one. He goes to write for The Jeffersons in 1980, Flow in 1980 as well, writes on My Bloody Valentine in 81. Archie Bunker's Place in 81 as well, goes to work on Airwolf in 85, Magnum P.I. in 87, Chameleons in 89, Evening Shade in 1990, Kung Fu The Legend Continues in 95, Flipper TV series in 1996,
Okay.
Nightman in 1997.
No.
Yes.
Wow.
Diagnosis Murder 2000, and then also is credited on the 2009 remake of My Bloody Valentine.
I would assume that's for characters.
Yeah, characters is correct.
So he was the sole writer, or was
he wrote on several episodes for
No, I'm sorry, sole writer of My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah.
See, for once, Dave lost the point of what the show's about,
because the story development credit goes to John Beard. He did it for My Bloody Valentine in 1981. Then he is uncredited on Happy Birthday to Me.
Oh, maybe he was a Paramount guy.
It could have been. Because then in 1982, he does a little film called Baker County, USA, a.k.a. Trapped, with Henry Silva, the movie that Andy Kopp showed at Shadow Cinema that one time where he locks that guy in his cellar.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I like that flick.
Yeah, and then also he's credited on My Bloody Valentine remake in 2009 as well. So you have two writers on this one. Stephen A. Miller is your main writer, and then you get creative development for John Beard. Finishing us off is our cinematographer, and unfortunately in this week there's only a couple titles I'm excited to tell you about, but he's still got a pretty decent resume.
Okay.
So his name is Rodney Gibbons. He's the DP on Pickup Summer in 1980, so he does Milhaka's first film. Goes with him on the second film of My Bloody Valentine in 81. 88, he does Something About Love. In 1989, he does Blindside. Yes.
That one?
That one.
The one with
Harvey Keitel.
With Harvey Keitel?
Yes.
That was a random Netflix streaming find I had, which it hasn't been on there for 10 years.
Yeah.
But I watched that randomly. That, I know, the ending blindsided me. That movie, I don't want to spoil it as if anyone's going to be able to watch it.
Be able to find it, yeah.
But Blindside, it has a big, like, dark twist right at the end.
Yes,
and then the title just goes, Blindside.
So then in 1990, he does a little film called The Amityville Curse.
The Amityville Curse, the one non-official Amityville movie of the era when there were official Amityville movies.
That is correct.
Because the Amityville Horror, for those who don't know, had several official sequels. I guess it was 6 total movies.
6 total,
because you don't count Amityville Curse.
Yep.
And at the time, no one really understood what we know now, which is why there are so many Amityville movies.
Yeah.
Which is that you cannot copyright or trademark a town on a map, basically.
No,
that's basically the way it's described, is like, if it's on a map, you can't own it.
Yeah.
So friggin'
yeah. Oh, keeps going. So Backstab in 1990. He goes then to shoot Scanners 2, The New Order in 91.
What?
Twin Sisters in 92, Deadbolt in 92, and then a little film called The Paperboy in 1994.
My favorite Paperboy?
The Psycho Paperboy, yes.
Well, that makes sense because that was produced by Pierre David, who started his big film career really with Scanners.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that he would hire him a couple of different times. And Pierre David, in case you didn't guess by his friggin' name, French-Canadian.
Yes.
And you just got me on a dangerous tirade.
Yeah, I know.
Pierre David is one of those guys that no one ever talks about. And he was, when I bought the Blu-ray set of Scanner Cop and Scanner Cop 2, he directed Scanner Cop. It's the only film he's officially directed on,
yeah.
And his interview was fascinating because it was short, and he's never been interviewed that I've ever been able to find.
Yeah.
But all he has to say about Scanner Cop is he's like, I did a serviceable job. Like, I did not do a bad job. That's his entire opinion of it. But Pierre David, over 100 credits as a producer. Yeah. He was in many ways the Roger Corman of Canada.
Yes, he was.
He's still producing made-for-TV movies to this day, but no one ever talks about Pierre David.
No.
Nobody's ever talking about how he made all of these crazy, crazy thrillers in the 90s. Just nonstop erotic thrillers, horror movies, sex movies, sexy movies.
Sexy, yeah.
But and the Paperboy is a good example. Paperboy is of the killer kid variety, which in the 90s there was just this huge influx of them.
Yeah.
With Mikey, with the Paperboy, and a few others that I'm forgetting the titles of.
Can you say Playing Dangerous?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of. I mean, the kid is killing everything. Yeah. It basically, Playing Dangerous, that's another movie I love. But that's basically Home Alone if the kid wasn't a sociopath.
Yeah.
Which, with Playing Dangerous, it's like, if the Home Alone kid cried every time he hurt somebody horribly.
Jesus.
Oh, because he's like literally killing terrorists, but he's
nuts.
12.
Yeah.
It's an insane film. But no, so that doesn't shock me that he worked with Pierre David. So that's super cool.
So then finishing him off, 1995, he does Screamers. In 96, he does Natural Enemy. 97, Dead Innocent. And then he also goes to work on the Lassie series in 97 as well.
Okay.
So he had a pretty decent resume. I was having fun looking through it, but I was completely blown away when I saw Blindside on there.
Definitely a Canadian workhorse.
It's also not the first time Blindside will be brought up here in a little bit.
Oh,
yeah.
Snap.
So
well, I'm blindsided.
Just hold on to your hat there, Cowpoke. So we are going to, like I said, be talking about My Bloody Valentine 1981. Scream Factory Blu-ray synopsis says, on Valentine's Day, someone always loses their heart. 20 years ago, this small town lost more than that. When supervisors abandoned their posts to attend the town's annual holiday dance, a tragedy claimed the lives of 5 miners. The sole survivor, Harry Warden, was institutionalized, but returned for a vengeful massacre on the disaster's anniversary. 19 years later, the town is gearing up for another Valentine's Day party, and teen sweethearts TJ, Sarah, along with their friend Axel, are among the partygoers. But when a box of candy containing an eerie warning and blood-soaked heart arrive, the townsfolk realize the romance is as good as dead. And so are they.
Ooh, I like that they led with a creepy poem.
Yeah.
But not the bloody heart, human heart ripped from a chest.
Yes.
That's an interesting and very lengthy. So you want to give your synopsis? Go for it.
The citizens of Valentine Bluffs are faced with a series of murders when a deranged killer returns 20 years after his original massacre as they all try to stay alive on Valentine's Day.
I mean, that is meat and potatoes right there.
Boom.
That was good.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
That was much like Pierre David's own opinion of his directing of Scanner Cop, which, by the way, I think Scanner Cop's a great film.
Scanner Cop's great.
But that'll do, pig.
That'll do. So we will say when it comes to My Bloody Valentine, this one is not streaming anywhere right now. You will have to rent it on either one of the many services available, of course.
Yeah, it's just not super readily available.
But
Shout Factory should have it some places,
Blu-ray,
but yeah.
So the cast of the film we are going to be talking about, we have Lori Haller who plays Sarah in this. She was in Bizarre, the Bob Einstein Canadian TV series. That's where she started at.
Bizarre? I never saw that.
Yeah, 1979, it was a TV series that Bob Einstein did. So she was on that. My Bloody Valentine in 1981. Goes to do Trapper John M.D. in 1983.
Haha, Trapper John.
Dukes of Hazzard in 84. Warning Sign 1985. Alfred Hitchcock Presents in 1987. Blindside 1987.
Oh, man, you weren't kidding. This is the most I've talked about Blindside in a long time.
Higher Education, 1988. The Twilight Zone, 88. Days of Our Lives, 89. Friday the 13th series in 88. Forever Night in 1992. Matlock in 93. RoboCop in 1994, the Canadian series.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
Night of the Twisters in 1996. Which, have you ever seen Night of the Twisters?
I don't believe so.
It used to play ABC Family all the time, and it's made for TV movie like when this town gets completely just rocked by these tornadoes. Like I think like an amount of like 6 or 7 of them in one night.
Wow.
It's a fun movie, but it's also pretty scary.
It sounds scary.
Yeah.
Well, we're in Ohio and we get tornadoes, so it sounds pretty scary.
Kung Fu: The Legend Continues in 93. Star Trek Voyager in 97. She played Dr. Riley Frazier.
I wish I was that encyclopedic of Voyager.
Yeah.
I do love Voyager.
It was only one episode, so I figured I would just take a guess on there for that one.
Yeah, I mean, it was a guest role, yeah.
Poltergeist Legacy in 97, The Hitchhiker in 97,
Hey,
Total
Poltergeist
Recall.
Legacy, that means it brings
Cappy.
up our good buddy James Cappy.
Yes. So Total Recall 2070 in 1999, Thomas and the Magic Railroad 2000, Monty Walsh 2003, Ghost Cat in 2004, Heartstopper, yes, the Robert Englund film Heartstopper in 2006.
Heartstopper.
Flashpoint in 2009, Christmas Inheritance in 2017, Christmas in Love in 2018, and Mrs. America in 2020. So she's actually even still acting today. She's got a couple things coming out soon, too.
I am positive it's probably the case, but I sure hope Ms. America, was it Mrs. America?
Mrs. America.
I sure hope that was a Canadian production.
I'm sure it was.
I'd guarantee it was.
So the other person we're going to talk about is Neil Affleck. He plays Axel in the film. He started on Oh Heavenly Dog with Chevy Chase in 1980.
Well, like most of us did.
Yes. Final Assignment in 1980. Dirty Tricks 1980. Scanners 81. My Bloody Valentine 81. Visiting Hours in 1982. Murder by Phone in 1982. Cross Country in 1983. Web of Lies in 2016. Fear Thy Neighbor in 2017. But where his career gets interesting is in 1991, he's an animation timer on The Simpsons, Rocko's Modern Life, The Critic, Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat. He becomes the animation director on King of the Hill in 97, Rugrats as well, sheet timer on Magic School Bus Rides Again in 2017, storyboard artist, and he also directed episodes of Family Guy, The Simpsons, Braceface, and Miss Spider's Sunny Patch Friends.
Wow, I never thought we would have somebody from Miss Spider's Sunny Patch Friends.
Yes, Sunny Patch Friends.
No, wow. So yeah, that's a big career shift.
Yeah, and tying that into it is Keith Knight, who plays Hollis in the film. He was in Meatballs.
Ed Kemper.
Yes, Ed Kemper. Which
That actor in that role, he looks like serial killer Ed Kemper. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules.
So Keith Knight played in Meatballs in 1979, Hog Wild in 1980, My Bloody Valentine 81, Gas 81, Class of 1984 and 82.
I bet I remember him.
Well, he also is in Siege in 1983.
He was one of the bad guys.
He's the blind kid.
Oh, No, he's not.
Yes, that's him.
No.
Yeah, and then he's the bully in 1984.
Yeah, he's definitely the bully.
Because it's the same.
Man.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Putting facial hair on him, you can't even recognize him almost.
Now, this man is a stalwart of what's called Canucksploitation.
Yes, he is.
Which is exploitation films made in Canada, especially from the 80s and 90s. And yes, Canuck is not a very nice thing to say, but that is the type of film it is. But I mean, having him be in Siege and Class of 1984, I mean, those are two like just chef's kiss Canucksploitation movies.
So then 83, he does of Unknown Origin. He goes to American Playhouse in 1987. He becomes a voice on the Care Bears in 88, does the Care Bears Adventure in Wonderland 87, does the Twilight Zone reboot in 89, War of the Worlds 88, Babar the Elephant in 89,
Babar.
Beetlejuice cartoon in 1990, Rupert 1991, The Adventures of Tintin in 91, RoboCop series in 94, Tales from the Crypt Keeper 94, Freaky Stories 98, Mystery Files of Shelby Woo in 1998.
I watched the hell out of Mystery Files of Shelby Woo.
Franklin in 2000, Queer as Folk in 2002, Rescue Heroes in 2002, Cyber Chase 2004, and Miss Spider's Sunny Patch Friends in 2005. He unfortunately left us in 2005 as well.
Sorry to hear that.
But, I mean, a hell of a body of work. Well, the moment that I realized, because I remembered the guy from Class of 1984, but when I saw Siege on there, I was like, holy shit.
I would have never remembered he was the blind kid in Siege.
So you talked about your first time seeing this. My first time seeing the film, I saw a bunch of pieces of this movie on the Going to Pieces documentary that Starz did that was all about the rise and
there
fall
were
of
pieces
slasher.
in Going to Pieces.
Yes, there was.
Okay.
And my uncle, who I've talked about on the show, was a big influence on me for my horror, and I lived with him for the last year before when I left college. He had talked about My Bloody Valentine as just like when I was getting into slashers, and then one year in one of his care packages, he sends me a copy of the old Paramount DVD.
Sounds more like a scare package to me. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yes.
So I watched it, and I really, really liked it. It didn't hit me as much as I love it now today. And then when the uncut footage got released, so basically to give you the synopsis of what happened to this movie, unfortunately, right around the time it was going to get released, John Lennon got killed. And when Lennon got killed...
Did anything bad happen?
When Lennon got killed, there was a lot of censorship on violence in films.
Huh. Oh, well, because didn't they think the guy was inspired?
Something
like that. They always think that.
Yeah. So
I love that joke about like, man, you know, Hitler played some really violent video games. Like, yeah, it's our media making us crazy. It's not our craziness making the media crazy.
No. So the MPAA issued several cuts on it. Of course, the MPAA never tells you what to cut. So 6 to 7 minutes of gore and violence.
They heavily suggest. Well, and it doesn't help that this was the beginning of the rise of the slasher movie.
Yeah.
They had just dealt with Friday the 13th, which they cut pretty harshly as well. And then the deluge of Friday the 13th sequels.
Yep.
So this was the beginning of a pretty heavy-handed time period. Now, technically, what the MPAA did was not censorship.
Yeah.
What it was the rating system. And it's important to keep in mind if you want to make a movie that's going to be in theaters, especially back then, more so back then, if you don't get an R rating, then you get what they used to call it an X, even though it wasn't an official rating.
Yeah.
It was just what you gave yourself. X ratings were not just for adult movies. Things like Dawn of the Dead was released with an X rating.
Yeah.
Day of the Dead was released with an X rating.
Yep.
So, but if you have an X or not an R.
Yeah, an NC-17 and X.
Well, NC-17 didn't come along for a little while.
Yeah,
but if you don't have that R rating, then you can't be printed in newspapers and you can't advertise on television. And that was not a legal thing.
Yeah.
That was an agreement that organizations had made with the MPAA. Now, I hate the MPAA. I'm glad that they're becoming the way of the dodo.
Yeah.
But it's not technically censorship.
No.
But it is true. If you don't make that R rating, then you're crippling the film. That's why you have so many movies. I'm sure that many people watching this have so many movies they love where their home video version is uncut or what have you. It's because if you have an NC-17 rating now, you NC-17 literally means no one under 17 is allowed.
Even with a parent guardian.
Even with a parent or guardian. As for R rating, you could bring younger people if you were a parent. Like, that's how I saw Freddy vs. Jason in the theater, was my mama took me and 3 teenagers we didn't know.
That's amazing.
Who were left out. Yeah, we literally ran into these 3 kids that were about my age when I was there to see Freddy vs. Jason, and they all had tickets.
Yeah.
Because their parents had bought them tickets, and then were like, go see your movie, and then they wouldn't let them in the door with tickets. Well, my mom's plan was the same. She was going to buy me tickets at the door and then let us through. But they were like, no, you got to go with them. So my mom bought herself a ticket and then looked at those kids and were like, come on, you're with me. And we just brought in like 4 teenagers that we didn't know. So we were heroes that day.
I bet you were,
Look, not all heroes wear capes, okay, Dave? But no, so that's important to keep in mind. So the R rating, if you didn't get an R, it was basically the death kiss for any hope of a big theatrical release.
And that was the swan song with My Bloody Valentine, because all the violence was basically just cut out.
Yeah, it was pretty slapdash.
I mean, it was there's very little, because that's the first version of the film I ever saw, and that's why in 2009, when Lionsgate got a hold of the footage that Milhoka had found that he thought was lost, they reinstated a lot of the gore back into the movie. Not all of it. Now, there's still some shots missing, which we'll get into as we go into the episode. But this movie, for the best version to find, is the unrated, because that has most of the violence intact. The theatrical is not bad. It's perfectly watchable. You'll get all the gist of it, but you're going to be missing a lot of juicy details, which we will cover, so don't worry.
I was really impressed with the quality they were able to get.
Especially on the shout.
Because we've watched that's what I mean, is with this most recent release, because a lot of the films that end up getting that treatment where it's like we were able to composite something together, oftentimes the source is like VHS. Like the biggest example I could think of is Silent Night, Deadly Night. The gore stuff that was cut for an R rating is just lost.
Yeah, it's lost.
But there's some VHS, because way back in the day, you would take what was called your work print, and often it would be dubbed to tape.
Yeah.
And work prints didn't have a sound mix. It had sound, but no mix. It didn't have music. It didn't have anything like that. It was just a print for the director to look at, for the producers to look at, to make a judgment about before they cut the negative.
Yeah.
Because cutting a film negative is a pretty permanent decision.
Yep.
So you want to make that decision when you're sure.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of the stuff was lost, because a lot of these distributors were like, we're in a hurry, we just want to cash in, and they would just cut the negative and just remove stuff.
It goes without saying, too, that back in that day, too, the whole rumor was always that once that stuff was cut, it was usually destroyed, because there was no reason to keep it. Because
destroyed is a hefty word for put in a wastebasket.
Put it in a wastebasket, put in a vault, lost in a vault. Yeah.
Maybe in a vault. Yeah. But I mean, the old saying is true. It would be on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
And eventually somebody sweeps it.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, one of the best examples that we can give is that Friday 13th box set a couple years ago that finally had what was thought to be the lost footage of all the kills in part 2.
Well, in part 2?
Yeah.
Remember? Oh, yeah.
Well, the bed.
And they found a ton of the kills from part 7.
Part 7, yeah.
Which was a big one, because John Carroll Bickler, who directed it, was an effects artist.
Yeah.
So he had every reason to save the kills at least on a VHS tape.
Yeah, and he did, luckily for us. So, moving into the movie, are you ready to get this started?
Maybe. I don't know. It's not even late yet. It's not even 1.
Fine. So we are talking again about My Bloody Valentine, 1981, and we open with probably one of the best cold opens in horror, I'm going to say. We open with a shot of a mine, and there's nobody in it until we start seeing 2 figures in mining outfits come forward. And they are going off into one sector of the mine, and we start to see the girl because she starts stripping. And
we don't know that there's a woman, but all of a sudden she starts stripping. Yeah. And now we're getting treated to one of the biggest slasher cliches.
Yep.
2 people have snuck off away to go make out in generally somewhere dangerous and filthy.
Yep.
Is almost always the rule.
Yep.
And this is no exception in a mine.
Yes. So she starts stripping, and she goes to take off the other miner's helmet, and he says no. And so she just starts, going further with it. And then he sees that she has a heart tattoo right above her breasts.
Well, and this is some really smart filmmaking.
Yeah.
So there's this very bright heart-shaped heart tattoo on her breast.
Yep.
And as the scene's progressing, your eyes keep being drawn to it. The camera keeps drawing you to it. And then as things escalate,
Yes.
he shoves her back and some kind of a thing on.
So he takes his pickaxe.
Oh,
and
it was the pickaxe.
He
Thank
puts
you.
it
Yeah.
in the wall. Yeah,
That's what it was.
Yeah.
He put the pickaxe against the wall. He shoves it, and it sticks right through the heart tattoo.
Her. Yes, and it
So
comes into the camera.
It really grabs your attention and makes sure your eyes are exactly where the gross out is going to be.
Yeah.
Very good directing. I love that intro. I agree.
The opening's
I don't know
so
about,
good.
I don't know about the best
it's
intro
one of
in
the best, in my
horror
opinion.
history. I mean, it's no Sleepaway Camp 2.
I mean, not everything can be.
Well, in my America, it would. We used to have a country. You could buy rifles and lobsters at Walmart when we were a country.
But going back again to the censorship, if you are watching the theatrical cut, you're not going to see the pic come through. All you're going to see is her screaming, and the camera goes into her mouth, and that's when we get the title, My Bloody Valentine.
Really?
Yeah, that's
so
gone.
That's a shame because that ruins it.
Yeah.
I mean, because that effect was so intentional.
Yeah, in the theatrical, he literally just takes her, shoves her, and then she screams, and then My Bloody Valentine. You don't see any of the impact or anything. That was discovered.
That's too bad.
Yeah. So that is the opening of the film, and we now are in the Haniger Mines as we meet the crew. We have TJ, Axel, Howard, Hollis, Michael, Dave, and a couple others, and we are treated to a nice shower scene right off the bat.
Yeah, but not the way you would expect.
No.
This is basically the antithesis of the opening of Slumber Party Massacre.
It really is. So the guys are showering, and that's, like I said, we meet TJ and Axel, and we find out that TJ has just returned back to the town. He had vanished at one point and went to California to try and make it big. Kind of fell on his face, so he came back, and TJ, when he left, was dating Sarah, who is now with Axel. And TJ and Axel are long buddies. Like, they've been friends for a long time.
But now a love triangle.
A love triangle has formed.
Is brewing.
So they all are showering, and they decide that they're going to have a race to the Cage, which is the local bar. They say the last one there buys the brews, so then we see them all leaving and running out to their cars, driving down the road, and they're going past the Valentine Bluff sign, and they get into the town. And they go into the Union Hall, and we meet, and Howard blows an air horn, alerting the girls, which makes them jump because the girls are decorating for the Valentine's Day dance.
And which sounds wonderful.
Yes.
Now, real quick, did they express where this takes place other than Valentine's Bluff? Like, are they trying to pretend it's America?
They
or
don't really ever say. I mean, we'll just go ahead and say it's Nova Scotia is where this is where we're supposed to be. So, but yeah,
it's not where we're supposed to be. It's where it literally was.
Yeah, my apologies.
But I don't know. I don't know if it was meant to be in Canada or it was meant to be in America. I think it was meant to be in America.
I think it was, but yeah, I mean, if it is, they don't really push much on it because there's a lot of Canada in this movie.
I mean, is there literally like a bear with a hat on, or I don't know why that would be Canada. That has nothing to do with Canada.
So TJ notices Axel and Sarah, and he's kind of standing off to the side, and that is when we meet the mayor of the town along with Mabel, who is one of the women in the town that owns the laundromat, and she's also one of the women behind the Valentine's Day dance returning. And the mayor is, he's like, oh, you've done great on the decorating. Everything's great, but we may just want to tone it down on this being the first Valentine's Day in 20 years. So let's not broadcast that too loud.
Gee, why on earth would they not have celebrated Valentine's Day for 20 years?
I don't know, but as Mabel and the mayor arrive to Union Hall, Howard, who is being a goof, has had the red paint spilled on him, so he pops out, scares Mabel, and she has these Valentine's hearts in these baskets, and they all fall to the ground. And I love it because he falls into the mayor's arms because he's acting dead. He goes, hey, guy.
Yeah, no, it's really charming. I really love that gag at the beginning.
So Mabel goes into the Union Hall, and the mayor goes into it too, and we also meet Chief Newbie, and everybody is looking at the decorations. They're commenting on how good it is, and Newbie is told by the mayor that they need to get going because they have a meeting to go to. And as they leave, Howard grabs the mayor and tells him that they have a heart box that was at the hall for him.
A heart-shaped box?
A heart-shaped box full of candy. So he gives him the box. He's like, Mabel, were you in on this? And he's like, don't look at me. So then they go ahead and leave, and that's when the crew goes to the Cage, and we meet the rest of the gang as Happy, the bar owner of the Cage, who is anything but.
Yeah, that's some solid irony.
Yeah.
That's like in one of my few slasher films when I named a character Lucky.
Yes. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
God.
If you've seen Babysitter Massacre, you know. And if you haven't, well, there's your homework.
So the reason that Happy is not the most liveliest of the bar and a bit of a grump is because he is just kind of obsessed with the Legend of Harry Warden. And the Legend of Harry Warden is 20 years ago. They were doing a Valentine's Day dance on Valentine's Day. There were some men in the mines, and the supervisors wanted to get to the dance early, so they decided to leave early without checking the methane levels of the tunnel. Something happens, an explosion occurs, and now we have 6 miners trapped.
Those are some serious farts those workers were cutting.
So 6 miners are trapped in the mine now, and they work all around the clock for 2 weeks to get them out. When they finally get to it, they find one man is still alive, Harry Warden. But Harry Warden at this point has gone crazy, and he's cannibalized the rest of his compadres in the mine.
Well, in his defense, he may have went crazy after cannibalizing them. He may not have went crazy before.
I mean, yeah, we don't know.
We just covered Ravenous.
I was gonna say, and I will mention right now at the end of the episode, I will be talking about this book right here, which is the novelization of My Bloody Valentine by Armando Manaz. I finished it, and there is more to Happy's story in it that I'll talk about towards the end. They do go into detail in regards of Harry's madness a little bit more.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
So he killed them, ate them, and now he's been found, and Happy was the one to find him.
Oh.
And that's Happy's last day at the mine.
It would be mine too. Relatable content.
Yeah. So Harry Warden gets institutionalized, but 1 year later, he breaks out and he goes and kills the 2 supervisors that left.
I thought you were going to say he was institutionalized and he broke out and he just wanted a Pepsi. Sorry.
So he breaks out, goes and kills the 2 supervisors that were responsible for the cave-in, cuts out their hearts, puts them in candy boxes, and leaves them at the Valentine's Day dance that night.
Which is festive.
With a warning that if they ever hold another Valentine's Day dance, he will return and kill them. Pretty cut and dry.
I mean, it sounds like it, yeah.
So
maybe more cut and very moist, actually.
Cut and very moist.
Yeah, I saw those hearts in the boxes. It was cut and wet, kids.
And as Happy is telling the story, don't worry, we get treated to flashback footage of all of this.
Yes, and the flashback footage, this is something I wanted to mention. Every time I watch My Bloody Valentine, the first thought that goes through my head is it feels like a sequel to a movie that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Because the flashback footage is, I don't know, there's just something about it that really feels like it's recapping a former film.
It absolutely
When
does.
in reality, it's not. It's just the movie.
Yeah.
But it really did feel like, you know, like I'm like, wait, did I not watch the one where this happened?
Yeah.
What the? Yeah. And a My Bloody Valentine prequel would be pretty cool.
Oh, hell yeah, it would. I still got to watch that fan film sequel that came out a couple of years ago because I've heard it's pretty good.
I have not had a chance.
Valentine Bluffs. It's on YouTube. I need to check it out. But no, going back to the flashback though, so when Harry is found, he is completely, head to toe dirty and looks completely deranged, and he's just munching on an arm, and he screams, and then just goes back to biting the arm.
Well, what do? I mean, I've literally had the exact same thing happen when you're eating Taco Bell.
That is fair.
I'm like, Dave, and you're like, ah! Then you go right back to that beefy 5-layer burrito.
That I do. So Howard interrupts Hap's story and makes a raspberry blowing sound, which pisses Hap off, and he's like, don't make fun of it. You don't know, and Harry will come for you. Meanwhile, this is happening though. Also, the guys are playing five finger fillet.
Yeah, that's the term, five-finger fillet. Which, for those who are smart, you don't know what this is, but it's where you put your fingers wide open on a table. And you try to move a knife blade between your fingers as fast as possible, tapping the table. And loser is the first one to fucking stab himself.
And that's exactly what Axel does. It's him and Hollis playing, and Axel misses, stabs himself, he flips Hollis off, and everybody's just having a good time. That's when Sarah decides to go over to the jukebox where TJ is playing a game. And she goes, I don't know. She basically tells him that, it's his fault that he left. He's the one that did this. And he's like, I didn't say it wasn't. And he gets pissed and goes off. And that is kind of the overall mood between those two, is that Sarah and TJ still are not talking. Like, Sarah's with Axel, and that's kind of the way it's
they're sour grapes.
Yeah.
Massive sour grapes.
So TJ leaves, and we cut over to the medical examiner's office. Oh, wait, excuse me. I must go back a bit because we forgot that in the car with the mayor and the sheriff, he opens the candy box and finds a human heart in it.
Oh, that's just minor detail.
Oh, just with a note that says, with the fear of the warning comes some bloody good cheer. Remember what happens as the 14th draws near. He takes it off, and we find the heart, which we find out to be the woman's heart from the beginning. So
yes,
he has stuffed another heart in a candy box, and we are off to the races once again.
Oh, yeah.
So they are at the medical examiner's office, and he confirms it's a human heart of a 30-year-old female, and he says, what the hell's going on? This looks like it was ripped out by a butcher. Meanwhile, the chief is calling over to the institution, and he tells the mayor that there's no one there right now that can answer them until morning if Harry is still at the institution or not.
I was waiting for the medical examiner to go, well, this is clearly from an owner of a lonely heart.
So He says, I think you guys have your answer. Harry Warden's back in Valentine's Bluff. And next, we see Harry just sneaking around Madame Mabel's laundrette, and she is inside washing the hearts again, and he goes up to the window, watches her. She goes into the back, and he puts a candy heart box on her table, leaves. She comes back, opens it up, and she gets a note that says, roses are red, violets are blue, one is dead, and so are you.
Which, I mean, decent rhyme.
Decent rhyme. And like I said to you while we were watching this, I really hope there's one of the deleted scenes is Harry going to the store and buying these just in outfit.
And he grabs 3, and then he's about to walk away, and he looks back, and his little flashlight shines on a little sign that says, buy 4, get 1 free, and he grabs 2 more.
2 more. So he leaves the candy box. Mabel goes out, finds it, reads that note, and then all of a sudden the lights in the laundromat go down, and the miner comes out from the back, scares Mabel, corners her, and one thing that's really cool about Harry Warden's attire that we were talking about in the movie too is the mining helmet, the light.
Yeah, and it's important to mention because I feel like we haven't painted a picture of what he looks like yet.
Yeah.
So it's important to mention he has a miner helmet, glass. I mean, you can't see his face at all. You see no skin. He's got gloves, everything like that, and he has one of those breathing apparatuses they wear when they go really deep in the mines. But yeah, the flashlight is my favorite because as he's stalking people, as he's attacking people, you can tell exactly where he's looking. And it's always the face of people screaming.
Yes, it is.
Some good stuff. And it allows for some great fake outs later.
Oh, definitely.
One of my favorite moments when you see the light and the girl screams and then it's revealed it's the cop's flashlight.
It's
good stuff,
it's
man.
So
it's so good.
So the gang then decides to, so Mabel ends up getting murdered. The gang decides that they are done for the night, but they're going to go to the junkyard, and that's when we reveal that Hollis has his car engine up and he's cooking 2 TV dinners as they're out in the junkyard, just hanging out, drinking, eating, the food, and just
doing what
having
boys
a good
do.
time.
Boys who see the scene will go, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So then we get a fake out, as Enrique was saying, because we see somebody's just sneaking around the car, and we hear a harmonica playing, and we find out that Axel is in this junked out car playing harmonica, and TJ comes up to him with a peace offering with a bottle and sits next to him and starts playing harmonica as well. They have a little jam session for a little bit, and then they start talking out that they've got a problem and they've got to work it out. And Axel basically tells him, fuck off, man. Like, she's mine. Like, you left, Sarah is mine.
I peed on her first, bro. I gotta say, one of the best parts of The Killer in this movie is that mine workers all wear the same clothes.
Yeah.
So there are tons of fake outs where you see, like, feet walking with a pickaxe, and then it's just another guy who works at the mine.
Guy, yeah.
It's not it's so smart in that way, especially as we're about to find out these Canadian teenagers are much more desperate to die than their American slasher movie counterparts.
Yeah.
Because we'll get to it. We're almost there.
So the next morning, the chief calls back to the institution. He speaks to Mrs. Raleigh, who informs him they have no record of Harry Warden, which means he's either escaped, died, or
They said he's either been escaped. He's either been no. He never said escaped.
Released,
they said released, transferred, or on the slab.
Take 1 of 3. Take your pick. And that pisses Newbie off. And he says 1 out of 3. You're gonna have to check better than that. And she's like, I've checked everything, well, except the microfilm, but that'll take several days. And I'll have to get to it at some point. So he tells her, this is important. Please get to it as soon as you can. Hangs up with him. We next see Patty and Sarah walking over to one of the stores in town, and they're talking about how they're going to have so much fun for the Valentine's Day dance, except Newbie then arrives at the laundromat, and he goes to find Mabel, but he sees nothing inside at first.
Oh, God, this is such a nasty reveal.
So he notices that the paper hearts in her laundromat, some of them are turned upside down, so he starts taking them off and setting them right, which I love this because, she's in one of the dryers, we find out here in a second.
Yeah, all you hear is the loud sound of a dryer running.
Yeah, and he's also smelling his pipe because you can tell there's an odor. There's something off in there.
Yeah.
He walks past the dryer that's completely covered in blood.
Well, we never said he was a good police officer.
That's fair. So he goes and picks up one of the hearts. He opens one of the dryers. It's just closed. And then the dryer next to him opens up as Mabel's charred corpse comes out. But that's not the worst part.
No.
Then the dryer kicks up.
It's spinning.
So
her corpse is all mangled and burnt, and it's turning and turning and turning.
Another thing that's added back in because the original theatrical, you just see her pop out, and it's really quick, and that's it.
Well, it makes sense because it's gnarly.
It's gruesome. No, it's probably one of the most gruesome points of the movie is just watching that body twirl because it almost breaks at one point.
That and the eyeball.
Yeah.
We'll get to it a little
we'll
bit.
get to that.
Like, those were the big ones for me.
Yeah, so Mabel is now found dead. Down in the mine, TJ and Axel almost get into a fight because it's the next day. They're at work and they're all a little hungover as well because of the night before. And Axel is dictating to TJ that he wants him to go down to one sector of the mine. And TJ, he says, he's been on my ass all day. And he's like, move it now, Hanniger. He puts his pickaxe on the ground. They go at it until the manager, Mac, tells them there's not going to be any fighting.
They fight. They don't start making love.
They briefly fight.
Yeah, they go at it. I'm like,
sexy.
Let's not get our audience too excited now.
So he tells Axel there's not going to be any fighting in his mind. Back at the laundromat, Newbie instructs the medics that have now gotten there and are taking care of Mabel that he wants them to pull around back and load her in so nobody sees. And as far as anybody's concerned, Mabel died of a heart attack.
That's one of the things you can always count on when it comes to cops in a slasher movie.
Yeah.
They'll cover up anything. Although they actually jump to action pretty quickly at this point.
Well, like we said, he's definitely not the mayor from Jaws in this.
No, he is the antithesis of the mayor from Jaws. The second body shows up and they're like, we're canceling everything.
So he tells them to pull around back and load her in there. And as they're getting ready to take her out, he notices that there's something in her chest cavity and pulls out a paper heart that says it happened once, it happened twice. If you don't cancel the dance, it'll happen thrice.
Which, again, a fine rhyme.
Rhymer.
He's no Run DMC, but
now I'm just picturing him at the desk, like, that doesn't.
No, I just imagine he's just sitting there with in the full regalia, but he's tapping the pencil on the helmet, and then he's flipping through the pages. He's just flipping through the pages of a rhyming dictionary.
See, if Harry would have put his efforts into poetry, he would have been fine.
I think he had some skills to hone. I really do.
So so they canceled the dance. They said, that's it. We're going to tear down all the decorations. Nothing's going to happen. And also lock up the damn Union Hall because we don't want the kids going in there and having their dance. So Newbie is next seen locking up Union Hall and delivering the news to the kids. I say kids, which I mean, they pretty much are, right?
Well, I was going to say they have to be 21, but they actually didn't in most states have to be 21 to drink at that point.
Yeah.
So they're all adults. Though.
Yeah.
They're all out of high school.
Yeah. So Newbie's delivering the news to it that there's not going to be a dance and no parties either because, Mabel deserves that much respect. And of course the kids are like, well, Mabel was really excited about the dance. She would want us to do this. And he's like, no parties.
Mabel would want us all to die at this dance. She was a cruel old bitch. If she had to die, she'd want us all to join her.
So up top of the mines, TJ and Axel get off the elevator, and Axel shouts at TJ that they got something to finish, and TJ goes, "You bet we do." He goes to his car and drives off, and we see him taking Sarah from her job, and she's like, won't you listen to me? I don't want to go with you. Are you listening to me? And TJ goes, nope.
I do love that line. Nope.
So he shuts the door. They drive off to the bluffs. And TJ and her have a really sweet scene where TJ basically confesses that he went out to California. He tried to be an actor, was what you find out in the book, and just fell on his ass. He could
I figured, if he went to California, he was either trying to be an actor or a musician, basically, in the 80s.
He just fell on his ass.
Or a serial killer.
Yeah, he just fell on his ass, and he ran out of money, and then something happened with his car as he was either driving back or driving somewhere, and what you find out in the book is that he wrote his dad, who's the mayor, of course, and his dad was like, okay, I'll pay for your car, but you're driving it back here, and you're coming to work in the mines.
I mean, fair enough. I mean...
Yeah. So he was gone for about a year, and he was so ashamed that when he left, he couldn't call her, he couldn't contact her, and that's why Sarah's upset. It's like, I didn't know where you went. I didn't know what happened to you. You just vanished, and now you come back and expect everything to be fine.
He went ghost.
So Sarah decides that she's not going to ride back with him, and she starts walking away, and TJ just gets in his car and drives past her, and then he returns to the cage. He goes up to Axel, who's like, have you seen Sarah? And he's like, I didn't know it was my job to take care of her.
Oh.
Meanwhile, Sarah is walking back from the bluffs, and it's dark at this point. She's just hit about town, and there's just eerie music going around. It's dark. We hear owl sounds, and then as she's walking up, like you said, a flashlight falls on her, and it's revealed to be Newbie.
Yeah, but you don't think it's going to be the cop.
No,
you really
don't.
think it's the killer. Great fake out to keep the audience interested. So
back at the cage, Happy is not buying the story of Mabel's heart attack. He even says, heart attack my ass. She got it just the way I said she did. And
which makes him a bit of a red herring.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So he doesn't buy Mabel's demise, and meanwhile, the gang is trying to decide, what they're going to do since the party's canceled, and that's when TJ decides that they're going to have a party of their own in the mine.
Because they're so desperate to be murdered.
Yeah.
They're so excited. They just want to jump in to death.
Yes.
So they're like, not only are we going to have a party, we're going to do it at the mine where all the horrible stuff 20 years ago that we know about happened.
And like we said earlier, TJ is the son of Mayor Hanniger Mine, so he has the keys to the mine, so he can absolutely get away with this.
Well, I mean, you know, your last name don't really matter much to the Undertaker there, boy.
Yeah. So Hap warns them that they decide to still go forward with it. You know, they say, piss on the legend of Harry Warden. You know, it's old news. We're going to go and do this. So Happy's like, all right, you guys do it, and you'll be sorry. And then Happy decides that night to sneak out to Hanniger Mine. He breaks a lock off, steals an outfit, steals a pickaxe, and he rigs up a Harry Warden dummy outside of one of the doors that they're going into for the party.
This is another great scene that I'd forgotten all about that really makes this movie stand out that I really love.
Well, because he's so happy because he basically has it to where it opens the door and the pickaxe goes up and it's supposed to scare them, but he's just so thrilled with it that he just keeps doing it to himself. He keeps opening the door, closes it, does it again. On the third time, the real Harry Warden shows up and Happy gets a pickaxe right through his neck and coming out of his eyeball, pops his eyeball out.
His eyeball pops out of the socket. It is one of the nastiest moments that I am positive was not in the original version.
No, it was not. In the original version, all you see is he opens the door and you hear, and then he's dragged away. You don't see anything.
I guess that'll do it too, but boy, was that gruesome.
Yeah, no, it's gruesome because not only is the eye picking out, but then when he sinks down, he drags him by that. Like, he does not take it out of his jaw. He's dragging him by the jaw.
It is what you're looking for if this is the kind of thing you like.
Yeah, so the next morning, which means, I got to point this out. So the next morning is Saturday the 14th, which means we just passed Friday the 13th.
Uh-oh.
So My Bloody Valentine has a Friday the 13th in it.
Oh, you see, I'd never caught that before. Yeah. I feel like this film, the Paramount executives were thinking...
I think you're right. So it's Saturday the 14th. It's the morning of Valentine's Day, and we see Newbie and the mayor coming out of the police station, and one of the paper hearts blows past them, the ones they tore down, supposedly. So now they're a little distraught with that.
Owners of a paper heart.
Later that evening, the kids arrive at the mine, and they've got their beer, they've got their snacks, they've got their tunes, they've got their weed.
They've got their signs that say, "We just love being alive."
So they go in and they start having their party, and they're just having a great time. Back at the station, Newbie gets faked out because he arrives at his desk and sees a chocolate box that his sergeant tells him arrived for him a little bit ago. He opens it up to find a "You're my secret admirer" from Mabel, and it's just chocolates. There's no heart in it. Another fake out.
Oh, and sad.
Very sad. Very sad.
The one thing, so in My Bloody Valentine, the kids are dumb as a box of fuck.
Yeah.
But you can all borrow that one. But the adults are just like tormented and sad.
Yeah, no, they really are.
They all go through the worst of everything.
Yeah.
God damn.
So TJ arrives to find that Howard busted the lock on the door because he has the keys, and he says, you know, who busted the lock? And they tell him Howard did. Also, Axel and Sarah arrive right after him, and we also see Mike and Sylvia slip out, and they start going over to one of the mine rooms. As another arrival is Dave, who was one of the workers, and he sees that there's hot dogs in the kitchen. He's going to go get a hot dog. He takes a little puff off a joint, and he says, I got the munchies. So he goes into the kitchen. He's fishing around for some hot dogs, and then Harry Warden shows up and buries his face into the pot while it's boiling with the hot dogs.
Which would honestly only flavor the hot dog water.
Oh, there's flavoring coming. Don't worry.
Why would they all boil hot dogs? No, it's funny because it's like, yeah, they have a big pot of water. They boil hot dogs for everybody, but it's like, why wouldn't you just use the griddle? Because you just have to heat them.
We should mention they're in like a rec room. They've got a full kitchen, they've got a full bar and a pool tables and all this stuff. But yeah, they are boiling the hot dogs. I enjoy
in a big
boiling
vat.
hot dogs. Yeah,
of course you enjoy boiling hot dogs.
I mean, I used to cook them in the microwave. I used to be a fucking heathen.
I still microwave hot dogs. Look, if I'm eating a hot dog for dinner, if I am eating a friggin' Oscar Mayer wiener, I don't respect myself. I mean, I don't respect others.
There's been times I haven't even cooked them and I've eaten them, all right? So.
Nope.
No. Is that too far?
Please, no, David.
Wow.
It's been years.
You're all correct.
It's been years.
Has it?
It's been years. I'm pretty sure it has.
I'm not going to look at my time hop tomorrow and see I screen cap the text where you say, just ate a bunch of cold hot dogs, bro.
Oh, man, if you do, that's going to be the ultimate. So Dave gets murdered by being pushed into the boiling pot. And again, another scene that was cut. You basically just see him going into the theatrical and the water stops and that's it. In the director's cut, you see his face just start to melt.
Yeah, it's nasty.
It is nasty as all get out.
Almost as nasty as boiled hot dogs in a communal pot.
So Newbie decides to go and check on the mine, and as he goes outside, he finds these dogs barking at a bloody box that is a candy box is dripping blood, but there's also a note on it that says, "You didn't stop the party."
It should have said, "Can't stop the party."
I just want to know where Harry's rhymes when he got lazy.
No, he totally got lazy.
Totally got lazy.
I think he was like, "I got this," and then when they started partying, he was like,
"Shit,
ah.
You didn't stop the party."
I already returned the rhyming dictionary to the library.
So Newbie is like, what damn party? What's going on? Axel is back at the party, and Axel's getting too handsy with Sarah back at the party, and Sarah's had it, and she's like, why don't you just leave me alone? TJ says, why don't you listen to her? Axel says, why don't you mind your own business? And that's when he tells him that Sarah's going to go with him when he leaves town again, but Sarah did not say that, and she's like, I have my own mouth. The two of them get into a fight again. Hollis has to break them up this time, and he throws Axel out.
Yeah, Hollis just grabs them both by the necks. Yeah. It's just like, nah.
Yeah. Will you guys cut this shit out?
I love that scene, actually.
Hollis is like one of my favorite characters in this. But so Axel takes a beer. He goes outside. He finds a corner, and he just sits down. And TJ goes back to Sarah, like trying to smooth things over, and she just tells him, I don't care anymore. Like, you both are wearing me out. I'm done. So she walks away from him. And at that point, we find out that John and Sylvia are in the mine shower room.
Which, by the way,
yeah,
that mine shower room, like, you ain't clean when you step out of that filth pit.
No,
I'm just saying, like, that is strictly for getting soot and memories off of you. And everything else is coming out with you.
To give you a perspective on the shower room too, all the miner suits are hanging above them on these hooks that they have to pull down to release, so they basically fall down completely onto them.
Which makes perfect sense because, if you have a room full of steamed water, why not make all of the miners' clothes slightly moist? That makes sense, and I bet it smells good too when they're wet. Yeah, the smells and sights of the mine.
So John shows Sylvia how to get the suits down by pulling a rope, and that's when she says, "You know what we need?" He's like, "I got it right here," and he pulls out a condom, and she's like, "No, a couple beers."
Duh.
So John offers to go get the beers. Sylvia offers to go with them, but she stays behind, and that's when she's just hanging out. She starts to hear some noises.
Want me to go with you? No, you're cannon fodder.
Yeah, just stay here. So she starts to hear some noises. She thinks that it's John returning, and then all of a sudden the suits just start dropping one by one, and then several start dropping at a time, and then all of them start coming down, and one drops down, and it turns out to be Happy's corpse.
Yep, and again, like I said, the excellent choice of the miner outfit.
Yeah.
You are misled constantly. Every one of them that drops, you have that little moment where you're like, is that the killer? Is that the killer? Is that the killer?
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Oh, it's very good.
There's a lot of granted, this is in the realm of those slasher movies from the slasher boom. This is a higher budgeted one.
Oh, it absolutely is.
And it definitely had a lot of higher concept gags and things like that. So at least they took advantage of their budget to some extent.
Yeah. So Sylvia, of course, runs into Happy's corpse and she's screaming. And that's when Harry comes out. He grabs her, picks her up, and walks her over to the shower. And he impales her on a pipe of the shower system.
And how?
You did not see this at all in the theatrical cut. You see him pick her up and walk her over, and then when John finds her, you just see that one shot of the water and like coming out of her side of the face.
Which I have to say though, that is a pretty good theater of the mind gag. Though.
It absolutely is. Yeah. So he impales her, and she's just spitting blood. It hits his shoes, and she's just twitching, and then he turns the water on, and it just starts blasting out of her mouth.
Yeah, it's a good gag. It's a solid gag.
Oh, man, it's vicious. It's brutal. So Sylvia is now dead in the shower, and John is back at the party, and the girls are fishing out the hot dogs, putting more water in for the boil, and they end up pulling out a boiled heart.
And it does look like a boiled heart.
It does look like a boiled heart.
It is gray and gross.
And, of course, John is like, oh, those guys, as he's opening the fridge to get beer, and there's Dave's corpse just sitting in the fridge.
Which he doesn't see. Yeah.
Doesn't see.
I mean, I'm sure everybody was wondering why the Franks tasted like slightly better.
Yeah.
Was because they were cooked in broth.
So John goes back to Sylvia, returns with his beer, of course, thinking that she's in the shower. He gets excited, goes into the shower, and finds her body and just starts freaking out. Meanwhile, Newbie is on his way to the mine, but Rowley calls in from the institution, and they radio him to come take the call. So he turns back around right as he gets to the mine, and he just misses the broken padlock by that much.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that so much.
So Patty sways Hollis that to make Sarah better, why don't we take a trip down to the mine?
Why not go into the mine, guys?
Why not go into the mine?
Why not go 200 feet underground, guys? Why wouldn't we do that, guys?
So Michael, Harriet, Hollis, Patty, and Sarah all decide that they're going to take a trip down to the mine, but they're going to come right back up because TJ stops them.
Yeah.
TJ stops them. And he's like, there's no, the rule, no girls in the mine.
Yeah, which it's like, what is this, a boat? Is this a maritime ship from like 1600s? No women on the boat.
So Hollis swears, we're going to take a ride and we'll come right back up. So they go down and they get their blankets, they get their little helmets, and they get of course the beer, because that's one of my favorite lines. Is as they're leaving, they're like, "Yo, what about gear?" He's like, "Yeah, grab that 6-pack."
Yeah, I love that. Well, don't we need gear? Yeah, you're right. Grab that 6-pack. It was a great line.
So they go down into the mine, and of course, once they get down there, they want a tour. So Hollis is persuaded by the women for them to have a tour of the mine.
If by persuaded you mean they asked one time.
Yes.
And he was like, cool.
Yeah.
And just like climbed out.
He
of
just
the
wanted
cart.
an excuse.
Yeah, he didn't care.
So they start going off, and he's showing off the mine. Meanwhile, Michael and Harriet hide out in the old engine room because they're going to have some nice sex.
Are you sure about it being nice sex?
Back at the party, Dave's body is discovered as one of the women comes screaming out of the room, and just as that happens, John returns, falling into the door, frantic at finding Sylvia's body. That's when Axel goes back, finds Dave's body in the back, and he runs back out, and he says, "Dave's dead. Harry Warden's here. Everybody get the fuck out. Go, go, go."
Another great line. Everybody get the fuck out.
And the party
run.
clears out.
Yeah, except for the kids who are in the fucking
mine. And that's when, of course, when TJ tells Axel that the others are down in the mine, so they decide to get their gear on, and they're going to race down there and find them. Meanwhile, down there, Hollis is broken away from Sarah and Patty. He does a little light scare on them, gets them to jump, and he's walking back talking about the old ancient parts of the mine, and Howard drops down from one of the ceilings that he's hiding in and scares Hollis.
Of course.
So the gang then hears a shattering of lights as we see Harry Warden down one of the tunnels, just breaking the lights with a pickaxe. And
really highlight.
Yeah.
He's just walking down, swinging the axe into the lights, and my favorite is that he misses one and then has to try again.
It's
so
like,
good. What? That helmet reducing your vision there a little bit?
So, of course, everybody is fleeing from the mines now, which means they're going back into town. Axel told, I think it was, who is it? I think it's John or one of them. He tells one of the guys, Tommy. He tells Tommy to go find Newbie and tell him that Harry Warden is here. So we see Newbie getting ready to leave. Tommy's car is swerving all over the road. And Newbie gets out to start chewing a new one, and that's when he's like, "No, Harry Warden's at the mine. He's killed Dave and Sylvia. Like, you got to get down there." So Newbie goes and races down to the mine. Meanwhile, TJ locates the group in the mine, telling them that Sylvia and Dave is dead. Hollis then goes to check on Mike and Harriet, leaving Howard with the girls. And at this point, I'm going to take a second to read an excerpt from the book, because at this point, Hollis finds the bodies of Mike and Harriet.
Okay, so this is, wow. Did you like put a bookmark in everything?
I did.
Wow. Okay, so this is a official reading.
Yes.
Of the My Bloody Valentine novelization.
So leather-gloved hands gripped onto the 8-foot auger drill and hoisted it up in silence. The miner was cloaked in darkness as he moved within the shadows. Harriet wrapped her hands around Mike's neck and pulled his ear down to her mouth. "I want to stay like this forever," she whispered passionately. "Me too," he said in breathless desire. The sharp bar hovered directly over Mike and Harriet, mimicking their movement. The bar was given a powerful downward thrust. The auger tore savagely into Mike's back, and he arched upward. The tool might have torn all the way through him if he had gone in just a half-foot lower, but it got lodged in the tough muscle of his heart. The bar was large heckle screw, and it was turned by hand, slicing a circular path through anything in its way. Mike registered that something had gone irreparably wrong. Lost in his first act of genuine penetration, he found himself on the receiving end. Harriet's eyes were closed as she dealt with the intensity of Mike's latest thrust, harder than the rest, coming to a stop deep inside her. His pressure was so great and pleasurable, it was almost painful. As she moaned in response, she felt him drooling into her mouth. Harriet opened her eyes and saw a long line of bloody saliva hanging out of Mike's mouth. His eyes opened wide in shock. Her mouth opened wider in horror, and that's when Mike gushed a stream of blood into her mouth. The spurt made her gag, while the blood that splashed in her eyes blinded her. The auger erupted and spun out of Mike's chest and tore into Harriet's, destroying her mother's first date dress with ease. Twice impaled and under the great pressure, she could only squirm in worsening agony. Mike and Harriet's eyes locked in their final moments. They did not understand why they were being punished with this death, but they would depart life from the height of pleasure and fall straight into the cold eternity of the grave together.
Aww. Okay, that's at least romantic, I guess.
The reason I read that is because that scene is unfortunately lost. That was a scene they did shoot, and Milhoka did talk about exactly that happening. So when I read that in the book, and of course he has the foreword written in the book as well, I was like, damn, that scene would have been kind of cool to see.
Sick as hell.
Sick as hell. Sick as hell indeed. So Hollis finds their bodies, and unfortunately he gets ambushed by Harry Warden with a nail gun, and he gets one right in the temple as his miner helmet falls off. He goes to put it back on, and that's when Harry Warden steps out, puts it right in this temple, and this scene is so brutal.
Yeah. You would think that getting shot in the head with bolts would be a quick death.
Yeah.
Nah, they went realistic on it, so it's drawn out.
It's drawn out.
It's painful.
The fuzzy vision, and you see the camera from his POV, so blood starts to form because on the second shot he gets him right between the eyes, and blood starts to form, and you got a ringing, and you just see Hollis dazed as he's stumbling out. So he gets away from Harry Warden, and he stumbles dead right in front of Patty and Sarah and Howard, and of course the group just freaks out.
Well, I mean, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So suddenly Harry starts coming at them from the other side. Howard runs off and Harry chases after him, and Sarah has to make Patty slap out of it because Patty is hysterical at this point. This is her boyfriend.
She was just like, she was on a roll like Eddie Murphy, just like getting the crowd. You meant she was scared.
Scared,
Sorry.
So she's scared, locked up, and, Sarah's trying to shake her, and she's like, we have to keep going. And she's like, no, like, I have to stay with him. Suddenly she just slaps her, and that brings her back out of it.
Gives her one, a good one, right across the face.
Yeah. So Sarah gets a slap onto Patty, and Patty finally gets up. Axel then finds the girls and leads them off, and they hear something thinking that it's Harry. Axel then clocks him with a log, and they decide that they're going to head to the top, and that's when they're going to find the help because they get to the elevators and realize that they are broken.
That means y'all gonna have to climb.
They're gonna have to climb, and right as that happens, Newbie also arrives at the mine and finds the elevator busted as well. So they decide again that they're gonna take the ladder. So we see them climbing up, and of course Patty is struggling because she's afraid of heights.
To which I said, but you're not going up. You're going up to where you live.
Where you live,
yeah. You're below sea level. It's not the same. But no, she's just so scared of falling 70 feet into the mine.
So we just have Axel, Patty, and Sarah on this ladder as they're climbing up. So Howard and TJ are both missing by this point. And Patty stalls on the ladder one time, and that's when Axel's like, Sarah, help her up. And he ends up slipping on the rung, grabbing a rope. And then what do you know? Howard's body falls from the top of this steep and lands right in front of Patty and decapitates as he hangs on the rope.
Yeah, the rope around his neck caused his head to rip clean off.
Rips right off, sprays Patty with blood.
It is gruesome.
Very gruesome.
Like next level gross.
And of course, again, you did barely see this in the theatrical, but you didn't see the head hanging on the rope as they have in that one shot, and you didn't see the body fall.
Yeah, the body fall was gross, but the head hanging, like they made it look like it ripped off. Like there was a lot of flesh left over and stuff. It was nasty.
So Howard is now dead, and of course they're like, okay, well, fuck this, we got to go back down. So they get down and they start to decide where they're going to go next, and they climb back down. As I said, they have a shortcut around some high water area is where Axel's going to lead them. He's like, come on, I got a way we can go. So he tells TJ to take the girls across and let him know when it's safe to come across. TJ gets the girls across, and he's like, okay, Axel, come on forward. We hear a thud. We hear a splash. They rush over and they see a broken piece of, I guess, not fencing, but
it was a rail.
A rail,
yeah. A rail.
A broken piece of rail, and they're like, you got to help him as we see TJ's or Axel's hat just sink slowly in the surface.
I love how as everybody's being murdered, they hear, and they go, what was that? It's like, it was your friend being murdered. What do you think it was at this point?
So Sarah's like, you got to help him, and he's like, I can't. There's nothing I can do. It's 60 feet deep.
Yeah, which is that's over 10 feet deep.
Yeah, it's over 10 feet deep.
I am the lifestyle guide of the program, and that's the truth.
TJ then leads the girls to a section. He tells them to follow along the wall. He'll catch up to them. So he goes around a corner, and then we hear another thud, and we hear some cave-in, and they don't hear anything from him. So Sarah and Patty reach the cart tunnel. Patty is then ambushed by Harry in one of the most brutal blows from the pickaxe right into her gut.
Right in the middle of her stomach.
Right in the middle
really
of her.
Nasty.
And he just lets her sink down as she's just looking at him dying. And it's really sad, too, because I like Patty.
Oh, you're like, it's really sad because I value that one human life in this movie.
Shut up.
Everybody else had it coming or whatever.
So Sarah then runs away, and as she's doing that, we see the cavalry arrive at the mines, because one thing I forgot to mention is that when Newbie decides he's going to go to the mine, he calls for all men to meet him at Haniger Mine.
Which
all
honestly
available men.
Makes sense in the scheme of a very small town.
Yeah.
It's just like every able-bodied man, we need you now.
So TJ finds Sarah as Harry appears again on their trail. TJ starts the mine carts up, and they both climb in, and Harry also climbs in. We have a little bit of a fight between a shovel and a pickaxe, which is pretty fun because TJ's just trying to dodge the blows. Harry's riding on it.
It was like a cheesy sword fight. I remember we were watching. It was going parry, thrust.
So Harry's still behind them. We see that everybody started to enter the mine now, so the cavalry's arriving once again. They make their way down the tracks, and TJ fends off Harry and gets a shovel with the pickaxe, knocks it out. They jump off the cart and go into a side shaft pocket. The three fight for a little bit, and we see that the Harry Warden gets his pickaxe stuck in a side. He draws out a blade, and as this happens, Sarah decides that she's going to distract him, and she goes up, rips off his mask, revealing that the killer is Axel this entire time.
It's our boy, the Mr. All-American Blondie over there. He has gone mad.
He has gone
mad.
So that's when we see a flashback of Harry murdering one of the supervisors, and we see that Axel is the kid that is also now in this flashback, revealing that it was his father as one of the supervisors that got killed and had his heart ripped out.
And not only that, but then when they show it the second time, when the little kid's looking on scared, they splash blood right in the middle of the kid's face, which, by the way, they let that kid have it.
They totally
So then they show the kid laying there. It's actually really effective. They show him laying under the bed. Catatonic, exactly the word. Yeah, just staring there, wide open-eyed. And now we realize that, like all good slasher horror 80s tropes, it all started with a little kid witnessing something horrible. But
trauma bonding.
But for once, it wasn't the minor, sleeping with his mom.
There is that.
Yeah.
There is that.
Although maybe in the book it's different.
We'll get there. So as she pulls the mask out and Axel is revealed to be the killer, the side caves in as the pickaxe is pulled out. Axel gets crushed, and TJ and Sarah escape out the side. Just as Newbie and the mayor show up, TJ tells him that it wasn't Harry Warden. He's like, I know it wasn't. The institution called me. Harry Warden died 5 years ago.
Yeah, and now we know.
It's
and knowing
Axel.
is half the battle.
Yeah, and he goes, it's Axel. And of course, the mayor's like, oh, well, it was on Valentine's Day 20 years ago that Harry Warden killed Axel's father.
In front of him.
Yeah, in front of him.
This information might have been useful.
Crazy. So the men start to go to dig Axel out, and they move one rock away, and they find a hand moving, so the guy shouts, he's alive! Meanwhile, Sarah and TJ have made their way down the tunnel, but Sarah, hearing this, runs back because she has to know, she has to check on him.
And she wants to hold his hand, and it's very clearly his hand because he's wearing his ring. He has this onyx black ring.
Yeah.
So she tries to touch the hand, and at that moment it grabs her, which I love that gag, but then we punch into underneath all of the wreckage.
Which is not in the theatrical. You do not see any of the cutting. That was the reveal when she pulled away the arm, which is, it would
have been more shocking.
That.
Yeah.
Because you see Axel just hacking away at his arm with the
he's
knife.
cutting his own arm off like he's in 127 hours.
Yeah. So she goes to pull on his hand. Of course, the arm comes free, and everybody screams. She drops the arm, and that's when Axel swears revenge. He goes, Haniger, I'll be waiting in hell for you. And this whole fucking town is going to die. We're coming back, you bastards.
And he just starts kind of scooting away, going through some random mine tunnel that nobody can access.
Yeah.
And he's going to bleed to death.
Oh, yeah. He's going to bleed to death. Correction, due to box office, he bleeds to death. Bleeds to death. Yeah.
If the box office had been bigger, he would have figured it out.
Yeah. So he starts running off, and he tells Harry, he says, Harry, I'm coming. This whole fucking town's gonna burn. We're coming back, you bastards. Sarah, be my bloody Valentine. And then he ends it with a little song of Daddy gone away. Harry Warden made you pay. And then he laughs, and that, my friends, is My Bloody Valentine, which is not technically over because we get a lovely ballad of Harry Warden by Paul Zaza that is a folk song that I have grown to really like.
I am aware. I was too busy. I was trying to throw you off by singing Warm Side of the Door from Silent Night, Deadly Night, just so you wouldn't be able to get it stuck in my head.
Yeah.
But no, that, and I will say, so something I'd forgotten is that ending is strong as hell.
Oh, yeah.
It's creepy, and it, like I said, if only the box office had been a little stronger, he might have survived.
He might have survived.
To kill more teenagers in another year or two.
So would you like to know some interesting additions to the novelization that were not in this film?
Hell yeah.
All right, so novelization reveals that were not on screen. So Axel chose to murder Stella Sagar, was her name in the beginning, and Mabel, because they were the two that were responsible for bringing the Valentine's Day dance back.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, because we don't know who that girl at the beginning is at all.
Out.
Yeah.
So Harry Warden...
It also, real quick, Axel makes perfect sense as the killer, too, because now you know that that's the reason the girl went in the mine with him.
Yeah.
Because Axel's a young, pretty good-looking guy.
Yeah, no, he is, absolutely.
Why don't you talk more about how much you like the way he looks, David?
So Harry Warden, one thing that they did in the My Bloody Valentine 2009 remake that I really feel like they don't touch on as much in here is that Harry Warden straight up murdered those men to cannibalize them.
Okay, yeah.
He went crazy. Like, he put pickaxes in their head. He put pickaxes in their rectums. Like, no joke. Like, this is in the book. He went full psychopath and cannibal, murdering the whole team shortly after the collapse, but that caused him to go crazy because with the collapse, they were just in darkness. No sound, complete darkness. They started to get hungry and everything, so he just lost it.
In South America, they can last like 2 weeks, apparently. Do you remember that? I can't remember the name of that movie I watched that was about that mine collapse, though.
Yeah.
It had Lou Diamond Phillips, and it was very, very good, but like starkly dark and sad.
Dark, yeah.
But yeah, they're stuck in total darkness.
Yeah. So that made him go crazy. Evidence of this is found, like I said, Happy is the one to find him in the movie and both the book, and Happy relates that they found pickaxes in the craniums of the miners, in the rectums, that he also had used them as human toilets. So he had actually...
What the hell?
Yeah, he had actually done some really fucked up things to the corpses.
I like it better without that.
Yeah, I get it, no.
It's kind of like when they, not that this is a retcon, but it's kind of like when they retconned things like the zombie at the beginning of Night of the Living Dead in the 30th anniversary edition, how it was like, now he's a child murderer, so it's like, he's already scary.
Yeah.
I liked it more when it was like, we don't know what happened in that mine, but when we found him, he was stark raving mad, eating human flesh. That... I think is scarier personally, but yes.
Yeah. So Happy actually goes to see Harry at the institution.
Oh, that's nice of him.
And he gets attacked by Harry and has a chunk of his arm bitten out.
Oh, that's less nice of him.
Because he talks to him and Harry says one sentence. I can't remember what it was. It was something like, why did you come? Like, why did you come here, basically, is what it was. So he gets one sentence out of him and then he attacks him. And that's when Happy decides to, A, never go back in the mine again.
Fair.
And that he's going to start a new business. So he goes into that bar business of the Cage with his buddy. And that's when he just basically lives at the bar from that point on.
Well, I'm not a drinker, but I might be after that.
Yeah. So Harry's murder of the second supervisor, because we only see the first supervisor in the movie, he killed the second supervisor on the toilet. And he hit him right in the head with a pickaxe.
Oh, well, that's, getting some filing done and then,
To the point where they report in the book that the coroner actually found not only blood, but also a little bit of cranium inside the toilet bowl by the time that they were examining him.
Gross.
Yeah, I know. TJ's reason to leave California, as I said, is he wanted to be an actor. They mentioned a couple shows that he, was in the background of, one of which being Mork and Mindy.
Nanu.
Yeah. So Sarah's walk home, there's actually a scene where she's walking past the cemetery and Harry Warden actually rises up from one of the tombstones because he's tapping his pickaxe on the thing, which is what gets her attention. And shortly after that, she ran into Newbie, which I thought was kind of a cool visual that I could have seen.
Okay, yeah, I would dig that.
Yeah, TJ and Axel's friendship, long time. Like I said earlier, long time. They had been friends since they were young kids. They would go to that junkyard all the time. One instance in particular, I can't believe I'm going to say this.
Oh man,
this is in the book.
Go on, Double D. Go on.
So in the book, at the junkyard one day, they open a trunk and they find a stack of hardcore porno mags.
Nice.
And they basically have a masturbation contest to the magazines at the junkyard.
Well, it's important to keep in mind that the best part about a masturbation contest is everyone wins.
Everyone wins. One of the things that I really, really liked at the end that I wish was in the movie is right around the time that they go into that side patch, That's where Stella's murdered body is. That's where he murdered her at.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they, of course, by this point, she's been down there a couple days, so there's rats and stuff. But there is an introduction of a character in the book that's a dog that they call Biter. And Biter is one of the dogs that's barking at the heart that the chief finds outside the station. Right at this point, Biter comes down into the mine, and he starts gnawing on Stella's corpse.
Well, good boy.
Yeah.
Good
Or no,
boy.
I take that back. Patty's corpse.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes more sense.
And he charges at Harry at one point.
TJ never noticed that his friend was like cuckoo bananas?
Apparently
he never
not.
noticed that he was like completely insane ever since that one, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, apparently not. So that is just a couple instances of the book. Again, I cannot recommend this enough. If you're a fan of novelizations, this just came out a while back. Unfortunately, it's not one you're going to be super easy to find. Stop the Killer is the company that put it out with some affiliation from a publisher. Stop the Killer is a great company right now putting out board games.
Yeah, they put out
too.
some cool stuff. I got
Including My Bloody
the
Valentine board
Silent
game.
Night Deadly Night book from them. Yeah.
So yeah, definitely one to look out for if you can find it. Right now, I will tell you they also do have a pre-order up for Happy Birthday to Me's getting a novelization and
nice.
a solo player game.
Yeah. Shoot, a game of Happy Birthday. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. All right.
So would you like to know some fun facts as we bring this to a close?
No.
Too bad.
Damn.
So the box office was $5.7 million against a $2.3 million budget.
Which 2.3 million is a lot for a little slasher like this.
Yeah.
I am surprised by that.
Released on February 11th, 1981, so they were right around Valentine's Day when this came out.
Makes sense. I mean, and there's not a lot of competition at that time of year. But I know that they were underwhelmed by they were hoping for another Friday the 13th.
Yeah, they absolutely
which
were.
Makes sense, Paramount. You know what? You're right. If you want lightning, just put it in a bottle so you can open the bottle anytime you want lightning, right?
In 2003, Milwaukee actually approached Paramount to do a sequel, and because of the poor return, they just weren't interested.
In 2003, they were also probably like, who are you?
Yeah.
What is this movie you're talking about? We made what?
Yeah. So another fun fact is the location of the Sydney Mines, Nova Scotia, were chosen because of its rustic atmospheric appearance. But when the locals found out that a movie was being shot there, they spent $50,000 to have the mine painted and cleaned up, so that when production returned,
my God.
when production returned, this diminished the reason for that production wanted the location. So according to Milwaukee, $75,000 of the film's budget went to putting the mine back to its original state.
So they thought they were helping. They were like, "Oh man, if they're gonna film in our Hey, yo, if they're gonna film in our mine, we might want to make it nice for them.
Yeah.
You know, we're very nice Canadians."
So
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
the mines were 900 feet underground. Only certain lighting devices could be used in the mines due to the potential of methane explosions.
Yeah, no, that's very serious.
The Legend of Harry Warden credits song is Afterthought by Paul Zaza. That was basically done when they were done with the movie. They were like, we need a catchy song, so he put the song in. It was done by Scottish-Canadian tenor John McDermott, who is uncredited on the song, mind you. The film's origin, according to the producers, were they wanted a holiday slasher film that had not been set on during the slasher boom. Setting it on Valentine's Day, they named the working title of the project The Secret to keep the idea from anybody copying it.
So what you're saying is they manifested the movie by using The Secret.
That is exactly it.
Oprah Winfrey listeners.
Makeup designers shipped the dummy corpse to set in a coffin, causing much alarm as it hit the Canadian customs.
It would.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would happen.
The Hanniger mine is never revealed to be a specific mine, but many assume it's a coal mine.
It would make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, but there are a lot of mining we don't know that it takes place in Canada.
Yeah.
Because in Canada, there's a lot of different kinds of mining.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would assume a coal mine.
The cast arrived a week or two before shooting to get the feel for the town and the lifestyle, allowing them to bond as friends, but also found out fast it was not uncommon for locals to wind up with bloody knuckles after heavy nights of drinking.
All right. Now we're talking. Now we're cooking with gas.
And the last one I have is the killer's identity was kept secret even from the cast because the filmmakers liked the idea of the mystery being real among the actors. Affleck, though, figured it out when he was the killer because he sent to the effects department to have himself fitted for a fake arm that was going to be torn off in the finale.
Well, who says actors aren't bright?
Yeah. So that, again, My Bloody Valentine, there's some fun facts with that. I mean, what is your final thoughts on this film, Enrique?
There's no better other than maybe the remake.
Yeah.
Slasher movie, if you want to enjoy Valentine's Day, perhaps by yourself as an edgelord. Mm-hmm. If you do find yourself single on Valentine's Day, there are worse ways to spend your evening while eating chicken wings or what have you.
Yeah.
So I do like it quite a bit. I do look forward to revisiting it.
Yeah.
I also really do like that remake.
Yeah.
But I would say that it's a definite rent it.
Let's rent it.
Although part of me, I mean, if you're a stupid movie fan, then you might want to own it just to watch it every year.
Yeah.
So
I gave it a buy it. I think this is one of the best slashers to come out of the 80s slasher boom. I think it's one of the most fun. I don't think it has really any slow moments. I mean, it freaking books.
it moves pretty damn fast. I can't lie.
And it has all the pieces you need for a good time. The setting is unsettling and scary because you have the mine and you don't have a lot of movies that take place in them, for one, especially horror films.
Sure.
And I think, honestly, too, it just adds to the uneasiness of it with the theme town of Valentine Bluffs and just the Valentine Massacre. I mean, completely different movie, of course.
Yeah, very different.
But I mean, it's fun. You have the curse all with everything in it and the tragedy involved and the characters, even though some of them are pretty stupid. It's still a really fun movie and it's a good slasher and it still holds up. I love this with each watch, like every time. I just love it more.
I think that's a fair point.
Yep.
So what are your recommendations to pair this? What's a fine pairing?
So you might appreciate this. I'm going to go with a movie from 1991 called Scary Movie.
Really?
A paranoid teenager comes to believe that an escaped lunatic may be hiding in the neighborhood Halloween House of Horrors and slowly starts to descend into madness. The reason I picked Scary Movie is because of the spook house setting and just the overall affiliation of the people and just it's a horror film on the the slightest turn, I guess I would say, because
I mean, it's on Halloween. There's gore, gags, and stuff like that. It's a very unusual movie, for sure. And it's like a Texas movie, but it's very not rural. Well, it is rural, but it's very. It feels very much like those movies that were made regionally in America at that time.
Yeah, I think Scary Movie is. I mean, you and I have watched it a couple times now. I think it's super underrated. I would love to see more eyes fall on it, and I feel like it's a good pairing for this just because of the overall hangout feel of the movie. Because while My Bloody Valentine is a slasher and everything, there's a lot of hanging out, introducing your characters and everything. Yeah,
I see what you mean. It's kind of cozy in that way. And remember, we're talking about Scary Movie from 1991, not the Wayans Brothers
with
comedy.
John Hawkes, not the Wayans Brothers movie.
And Scary Movie, also another thing worth mentioning, and the thing that makes me like the movie the most, is the main characters are in line for the spook house, like the entire, because that, before we started having like internet ticketing, that was the spook house experience, was being in line like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's why you'd stock up on beer and cotton candy and stuff. So I do like Scary Movie, but I thought about my recommendation.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with one for a similar feel and apparently, as I've learned today, a similar cruise. My first thought was Happy Birthday to Me.
That was going to be mine too. I was thinking about that or The Burning. That was the other one that popped in my head.
I could see that, but Happy Birthday to Me, it just has a very similar feel.
Yeah.
It's a similar era, similar teams working on it.
And a great twist at the end too.
Great twist, super fun, and I just love Happy Birthday to Me. So
really good, and it's also gotten a lot of good releases too recently, so that's a really good one I agree with.
Yeah, so My Bloody Valentine, if you love your seasonal horror, it's something I think is worth owning.
Yeah.
I think for the average fan, you probably want to rent it, but you might fall in love with it as the film falls in love with you.
This is true.
So before we get out of here, thank you guys so much for checking out the show yet again. Really do appreciate it. If you want to email us, recommend a movie, suggest something, just send us an email at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com or go to doyouevenmovie.com.
Yes.
You can contact us through there. You can also sign up for our Patreon for as little as $3 a month. You get to see every episode 4 days early in video form.
Yeah.
And we really do appreciate the support. We definitely could use it. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, leave us a like. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're listening to this on the podcast, please leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It would make a big difference. We only have 7 ratings right now. And that's a rookie numbers. You gotta
bump
get those numbers up.
And including more of our social media, you can also find us on TikTok and Instagram at Do You Even Movie Pod. You can also find us on X and Facebook as well, and we have a lot of fun content on there, and we're also open to any suggestions, comments. We would love to hear your thoughts on the show and maybe even some movies that you would love to see us cover or some episode styles, maybe breaking away from just one movie, what you'd like to see.
Yes, and I want to let everybody know that next week we'll be covering what's become an immortal classic, which is surprising because it feels somewhat young to me. I don't feel like, even though it's a very dated movie, it still feels kind of young, and that's Heathers. We'll be talking about Heathers next week, right here. So until then, my friends, we'll see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.
You're my see you next Tuesday, Debbie. Bye, everybody.
Later, y'all.